hooks is a really new feature to React. It's probably something that if you're on the Twitter spheres that you've heard of, right? And this got introduced maybe about November is when they announced it, and then it's been rolling out, and so now it's generally available as of React 16.8. So the first thing I'm going to tell you right now is it's totally optional. You do not have to use hooks right now, but I'm going to teach them to you first because I think they're an easier way to think about writing React components. And then we'll also go into the other syntax as well, which is class syntax, because you need to know both of them. Okay? For those of you that are watching the video, if you're watching this just to learn hooks, there is a section here called Hooks in Depth. It's probably a good spot to jump in, right? Because that section is totally isolated from the other ones, and it goes over all of the hooks. Yeah.
And that'll be in the intermediate React course?
Yes, that'll be in the intermediate React course. I think it is the first section of the intermediate React course. Okay. But you can also start from here as well. So let's talk about what hooks do for us. So let's go back to our code. Let's make a new component here. And we're going to call it searchparams.js. It's going to be inside the source directory as well. And here we're going to import React from React. Say const search params is going to be equal to an arrow function. We're going to give it some location. So this is going to be something like Seattle, WA. Make sure that this is an American location. The API that we're going to be using is limited to the US. And actually I've limited the API to just Seattle and San Francisco right now, so maybe choose one of those. And I'll explain why here in a second. So make a div here. And so one thing I haven't explained to you so far, but is pretty important, is I want to give this a class name, right? So typically I would just say class equals search-params, like this. But notice it's going to say, I don't know what class is. There's a problem with using class. And the issue is that class is a reserved word in JavaScript. So if I say something like class pet or something like that, class here has a meaning in JavaScript, right? It's just like I can't say const class equals blah. It's because this is a reserved word, right? Unexpected keyword means it's a word that you cannot use as like a variable name, right? Same thing, I can't have this called const. I can't have this called let, right? Class is another one of those. So how do we get around that with JSX? Well, we use the name of the JavaScript API, which is class name. They didn't invent this, but this was not a limitation that React invented. And actually, it's the name of the DOM API as well, so it's consistent with what the DOM calls it. So that's why this is class name instead of just class. I understand that people find that annoying, but it is what it is. Okay, so inside of that, we're going to put a form. Inside of that, we're going to have a label. And same thing here with for, right? For is another reserved word, as in for loop, right? So HTML for. And this is for the location. Inside of that, we're going to give it location with an input. ID equals location. Location equals, and then we're going to put curly braces here because we want this location here to be put there. So, and this isn't going to be location. This is going to be value. Value equals location. And placeholder equals location. And underneath that, we're going to have, outside of that, inside of the form, button, submit, like that. Okay, last thing down here, export default search params. Last line there. So we've made this new component that's going to be a little like search box, so we can search for various different facets of pets, right, against the Pet Finder API. And it has a div with a form inside of it, and we have a input with a label for it. Some of you might find this like a little strange way to nest it. This is one way that you can do labels, that you put the input inside of the label. There's other ways of doing it as well, but in the end, it's just good for accessibility so that if someone clicks on the location, that it highlights the correct input, right? That's ultimately what we're going here for. And it's going to have a value of Seattle, Washington, right? So let's go ahead and go render that out to app.js. So inside of app.js, let's see, make sure I get this right. Yep. We can delete all this stuff that we commented out. And here, we're not going to import from pet anymore. We're going to not use pet right now. We're going to say import search params from /search params. We're going to delete all these pets and just put search params like that. Okay, I'll open search params one more time in case you missed something. So now I need to make sure that my server is running. Mine is still running, but make sure yours is running. So, and then make sure you open localhost 1234 here. Something I kind of danced around but didn't explicitly mention was that you can't do that file open thing that I was showing you before. That no longer works. You have to be loading this off of Parcel's server, right? Which is why you have to open it off of localhost 1234. So we're going to open that again, which I have up here, and you can see I have a location here with Seattle, Washington with a submit button there, right?